Monday nights mean so much to me. Dr. Tammie Harris here. Super excited to be bringing you on another boss, another man of God who's going to just give us some good energy on tonight. Dr. Resilient himself, and I'll introduce him shortly. But first and foremost, I want to thank you for joining me. Mindset to Millions. I often say I live to tell the story, and we know what Mindset to Millions is about. It's about having an opportunity to understand that holistically, you want to be healthy, wealthy, and you want to be wise. So every Monday night, I get the grand opportunity to bring on guests to talk about that holistic life, how to get to your new next now. And to all of my listeners out there in all the different countries, thank you for joining. Thank you for clicking in. Thank you for jumping in the chat, sharing and asking questions and providing feedback. It is an honor. And our fearless leader, Coach Rich, thank you for giving us this opportunity at Mega Source Entertainment. We are doing big things over here. I do want to tell you that. And of course, to my other radio hosts, friends, and family at the network, I want to just thank them for being who they are. And you can join in. We have something on Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. So you can always jump in and listen to Mega Source Entertainment. But without further ado, I want to introduce a friend of mine. You know, a lot of people I introduce, they're all over the world, all in different countries, sometimes in different places. But this is somebody that's right in my neck of the woods, North Carolina. Throw your hands up, yes, and let them stay there. Dr. Carl Barnes, welcome, Wilson, North Carolina, in the building. What's up, my brother?
Not a whole lot. I'm just grateful with the attitude of gratitude, Dr. Tim. You know what? We're neighbors, but also we're here connected. And I believe it was not a coincidence, but we are here this evening to share with you and your audience.
Oh my goodness. And you all are going to love Dr. Carl, just a humble man of faith. And I have his bio, and I mean, he's done so many things. He's been recognized, as a top 10 speaker in 2023. Dr. Carl Barnes, he's highly sought after as an international keynote speaker. We are besties. We are guy and girl besties. He's a best-selling author. We have so much in common. He's a coach and a consultant. But he has a profound mission, y'all. And he's going to talk a little bit about that on tonight, how to guide and empower men. You know, we just had Father's Day, and we love men over here at MSE. And I mean, we love, Mega Source Entertainment. We say right here and right now, men are a vital part of our society. And I love the fact that Dr. Carr, he put his work to action, working with, young people at risk, youth, military, corporations, academia. I mean, he does some of everything. But listen, I want to take a moment, sir, and I want you to tell the people more about who you are and what you do. A lot of times we don't know how to talk about ourselves in a way to let people know we're the real deal. This man of faith is the real deal. Sir, come on and introduce yourself to my audience.
Well, Dr. Tammie, thank you so much. Again, it is an honor that I'm here, your platform, and just hearing those little small accolades from you, it's like, really, who is this guy? Well, let me tell you who this guy is. I'm a 35-year Navy veteran. I got commander behind my name, doctor behind my name. But you know what? When I retired, I told people my name is Carl. I know who Carl Barnes is. You see, I graduated from Bettyfield High School class of 80. But you probably see the sign behind me. It says resilient selling, how to persevere life stormy seas. Well, it all started because I had a dream bigger than I could fathom. And it was to leave that dirt road of Wilson, North Carolina, see this big world and get an education. But Dr. Tammie and all those listening out there, it came with a price tag. And that price tag was not easy because you see, it started with the Navy saying I was not even qualified, wasn't smart enough to even get through those doors. Not one time not 2, but 3 times it took me to take the test to get in. All I want to do is just get in, and the rest is history. So when I left the dirt roads of North Carolina, I had a determination not to return back because I wanted more of this life. As Les Brown said, I was hungry. I was so hungry that I risked it all. So you know what? Just let me through the doors, and the doors were open for me in the Navy. I didn't go with no guaranteed A school. My scores were so low. It's like, how did I get through? Because God had a bigger plan. So I went through and made the best of it. I didn't even have the first degree. But when you talk about resilience, Dr. Tammie knows listening, resilience started in my mother's womb. You see, as we be transparent here, you see, my mother was a teenage mother. And do you know, lo and behold, she was on her way to get an abortion with this guy that's standing in front of you today. But the voice of God told my mother, don't do it. Because you know what? Like the scripture said, he formed me in my mother's womb. I believe resilience was birthed through my mama because she couldn't do it because why? God had a bigger plan and a bigger destiny because he knew that I would be on this platform tonight to tell the story how when the system said no, God said yes. So my mother said yes, not just to me, but to my vision, to my platform. And to this day, I am so grateful because that story in a nutshell says it all right there because God had a bigger plan and I was destined for more than just being Carl Barnes. He wanted to take me to the top. You see, I went into the United States Navy as an E1, which meant I was the lowest of the lowest of the lowest. I could scrape the barnacles under the ship. No education, but I was in. And I knew that it wasn't my life sentence, but it took some struggles. It took some hard work. And it took some knocks on the doors. When they kept slamming in my face, I kept knocking. Sometimes I found you got to keep knocking until the door stays open. You know, who is this dude here? I'm here because I want more out of life. I knocked so hard, I got callus in my fingers. But you know what? I'll do it again. When I left those dirt roads, I didn't look back, but it shows that I started from humble beginnings. When I say humble beginnings, the dirt road is paved today, but I look back in that dirt road, and that dirt road took me to the next level of my life because it shows that, hey, if you're willing to have a dream and that dream is in you, nothing can stop you because I wasn't going to let nothing stop me. I have seen the world. I have lived in other countries. I've seen crisis. You see, I went in as an E1, no education, no degrees, but God blessed me and anointed my brain. I always thought I had a learning disability. It's like, really, why can't I pass these tests? Long story short, when I retired after 35 years, and there's a whole lot of stories in between that, Dr. Tammie, we could jump right in, but you know what? God blessed me to get 5 degrees with Uncle Sam paid for 4 of them. Now remember, the system said I wasn't smart enough. 5 degrees later, 3 masters, and an earned doctorate. God said yes, because I had to prove that, you know what, nothing's wrong with me. And guess what, audience, Dr. Tammie, about 6 months ago, I asked the doctor, can I be diagnosed and see if I have a learning disability? Do you know what he said, Dr. Tammie? You have ADHD. Now, 5 degrees later, so you see where my resilience came. So what was it that propelled me and pushed me to say, don't give up? Now, this is later in my life when I got diagnosed. So if I knew way back then, my mother said I was in special education classes. Guess what? She was there. I graduated. I got those 5 degrees and say, you know what? They weren't given to me, but I worked hard. I got headaches. My health suffered. I had crises in my life, but I refused to stop. And the thing behind me, I learned how to persevere life stormy seas on ships, going back and forward. And life sometimes does the same thing. I survived the divorce. My fault.
Hold on, Dr. Carl. Listen, y'all see what I'm talking about. This man of God has came out of the gate running, right? Because he knows that he have a story to tell. Woo, 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 woo. I know people in the chat, they're blowing this chat up because they're just like, it's so much, sir, that you have shared with us. Let me ask you this. I got to ask you this before you go on. I got to ask you this. Now, did you always have this kind of zeal, zest, excitement. Every time I see you, I've seen you on Sean Fair stages at Michigan State. We've spoken together there. I've seen you, Dr. Marcia's stage in the DMV. We've spoken together there. I've seen you on other platforms, and you always bring this kind of energy. Have you always been like this?
You know what, Dr. Tammie, great question. Believe it or not, yes. You see, the 35 years in the Navy, before I was a chaplain, I was always working as a chaplain assistant. So I got to do a lot of facilitation, a lot of teaching, and a lot of training. Most of my career was training in the Navy, which meant that I was in front of people. Now imagine teaching suicide awareness, this dry, boring subject to a Marine Corps in a theater of 5,000 people. I got in front of them and I said, I had an audience and I took something that was so dry and brought life to it. I said, look, there are 4 friends we got to kick to the curb, people. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, and but. Kick them to the curb. So when I left the island of Okinawa, they gave me a plaque that said, coulda, woulda, shoulda, chaplain. We kicked them to the curb because when I said, don't second guess yourself, go after your dreams. Now, this was a suicide brief and it turned into a motivational talk. So the platform in the Navy opened the door on aircraft carriers, Marine Corps bases, because as a Navy chaplain, I served the Marine Corps and the Coast Guard. I wore all those uniforms, which meant that I had to assimilate each different culture. Talking about Brazilians, how to bounce back from the Navy, the Coast Guard, and be on ships. I did it and had the same fervor and excitement because you know what? They said, oh my God, you're on fire. I want to follow you. What do you do for a living? This is a part of my DNA because they say you're such an introvert. You're so quiet. But when I get out of my element, like tonight, I'm on fire because when you're full, I say live full, die empty. When you got a story to tell, guess what? You can't keep a lid on top of that. It's going to burst open. So I am full of stories that of resilience to say, you know what? I persevered life's stormy seas, and so can you.
Wow, this is so good, so good, so good. I love this. And, I know that as I've heard your own platforms, you continue to work with veterans, educating them about benefits and, how to get through life stormy storms and the seas of life. What does resilient means to you? We call you Dr. Resilient, but talk to us a little bit about that word.
Thank you. Very good question. To
Yeah.
me, resilience means bounce back. One of our books is how to bounce back, how to turn your pain into passion. So what I've learned that all those no's in my life meant that it wasn't the end of the road, but I learned how to bounce back. As they say, I learned how to take those lemons and make lemonade out of a bad situation. So that was birthed into me from birth until the day. So I found out everything that I've gone through in life, I was able to look back and learn a lesson from that. To me, that is resilience. It always wasn't, the plethora of monies, but the plethora of getting through adversity, getting through crisis. I have buried more people in uniform. I've been their death's door. I've seen that. And they said, Chaps, how can you keep a straight face? Even though I was hurting and wanted to cry inside, I had to be strong for them, knowing that I was suffering. But that was what resilience do for me because somebody had to be strong. And that person was me. Behind closed doors, they knew they could trust me because they knew that I was the person that would take their stories and secrets to the grave that maybe their mothers not even know. That takes a resilient mindset because the mindset, if it's not right, you wouldn't leave a dirt road. You wouldn't leave North Carolina. You wouldn't leave the borders, want to see the world. If your mindset is not there, guess what? You would stay in a jar. I have this issue I do with a jar. I try to say, blow this balloon in a jar and then put a lid on it. You want to stay in that jar or get out of that jar. Life is the same way. We bottle ourselves up. But a resilient person will bust out that jar. They will turn those lemons and lemonade. And guess what? They will persevere through those storms that life throws at them.
I love this. I love this. And so, resilient for you, it sounds like you have been able to use it to stir up a burning fire in you in spite of what you've been through. But what are some misconceptions, some common misconceptions about resilience that you may have encountered with other people? Because sometimes people don't understand the power of resilience.
Wow, that's a very good question, Dr. Tammie. And I think that even if, if we turn on the TV every day, that word seems to be at the forefront of everything in life. You know what,
Mm,
from our national disasters to people losing loved ones. And they say, what gives these people the strength to get through that tornado? I just lost everything. I just went through a divorce. I just lost a loved ones, and I still find myself still standing tall. How do I do that? That is
mm,
what we have it in us. But getting through that instead of going in a pity party and not caring, like, oh me, oh my, you
mm,
learn something inside of this, just raise up and say, like David fought Goliath. You know what? I am
mm,
not going to let this giant defeat me today. So we have to get that David mentality, know that Goliath
mm,
is going to be there. He would try to knock on your door and scare you and fear you, but guess what? Greater is he that's within me than he is in the world. And I know
mm,
that's where my strength lies, because resilience, you want to say strength, you want to say fortitude, it's all wrapped up in the same package. It's how you want to label it and what word you want to use, but at the end of the day, it is called resilience. How does a mother, when she see her car, a son under her car, she found the
mm.
strength to lift that car and pull a son out? Where
Right.
did that strength come from? It is resilience. How does that person going through chemo? And I have friends right now, and they just get
Mm,
through, you know what? I'm going to get through this. I'm in pain, but I'm going to get through this, because their mindset said, I refuse to give up on life. Resilience
mm,
said, you refuse to give up on life. Yes, I remember living in the projects. We
mm,
didn't give up. I didn't know we were poor, what the ghetto was. But guess what? Our mindset said, guess what? We thought we were rich, and we were in the projects because our parents not let our mindset feel like we had nothing, because they
mm,
kept us together. That's what resilience taught me. Being around my elders and my senior citizens when I was growing up as a child, and watch how
mm,
they struggled, but they didn't complain, because faith without works is dead. So faith
mm,
and resilience work hand in hand as a package. And how do you want to keep your package together? So when that knock at the door is going to come, that knock at the
mhm,
door is going to come, and you might not be prepared to open it. But I say
mm.
open it and meet the challenge head on and say, you know what? I'm going to cross this finish line. If I got to crawl or leap, I'm going to finish, because that's what makes you a resilient individual.
Wow. Wow. This, I think in the times that we're living in, I know I was talking with some parents over the weekend, and we were talking about how we weren't able to get all the things that we've given our kids, but we had resilience, we had tenacity, we had strength, we had hope, because we was hoping for something greater. And we were talking about, the young people now. I
Mm,
know for myself, I've tried to give my children, what I didn't have, but I can truly say, one in particular, his resilience is pretty low, but I think it's because some of the struggle that
yes,
I went through that
yes,
propelled me to get to my new next now. Some of our young people don't have that. And I think, mental health,
yes.
COVID, so many different things play a role into that. But how would you say, Dr. Carl, does resilience play a role in mental health and emotional well-being?
That is a very excellent question. Tammy, I think you were with me in Baltimore, where for the first time I became very vulnerable and transparent as a man of color. And I've never
Mm,
shared my struggles with people. Talking about resilience, that's a whole different level. And I shared with them before I got off active duty, my last 2 years. Remember, I feel like I had this mask on, smiling. Nothing
yes.
bothers me. Hey, I'm feeling great. And
Mm,
behind closed doors, I was crying and suffering. And then know that, wow, something's not right here. And went on
mm,
for years and years and years, feeling great and
mm,
balling all this inside, which is a kind of pressure. To one day I said, you know what? No more. I removed that mask of shame. I removed the ego. I removed all
mm,
those things that said, this is what not meant to do. And I raised both of my hands and I went to the doctor and I said, I need help. I was not ashamed. I was in uniform. And you know what? The therapy helped. I said prayer and therapy helped me. Why? Because I knew something wasn't right there, having outbursts of anger. Yes, Dr. Resilience. So I can say that, you know what? That mindset, I had to shift it, because that mindset said, guess what? You need help. And instead of keeping myself in prison, I had to break loose from the prisons, to be in bondage, and say, you know what? There was help on the other side to take me to another level of resilience. So it's all involved the mindset. So when I did that, I felt so much better, because I had to talk to a professional because I don't know about you, Dr. Tammie, but I was raised in church where everything was demons. Like, we don't do that.
Yeah.
No, what it was, they didn't have the mindset and the understanding to know that
Mm.
there are educated people out there with the right expertise, the right tools. I mean, we go see a dentist, don't we? Why do we see a
Mhm.
dentist? We see a foot
Mhm.
doctor. Well, why not see somebody for mental health? Why? Because
Mm.
ego and stigmatism, especially with men, we have egos. I was just watching a show the other day, and it was talking about guys and mental health. We begin to
Mm.
talk about it more because it's like, oh no, you teach a show, shut up. Nothing bothers you. Don't say nothing.
Mm.
You know, suck it up, as we said in the Navy. But now we find out those people were suffering. They kept it inside of them. And then behind closed doors, as a chaplain, they would come to me in confidence. I
Mm.
would walk with them to medical. I had my lips closed and say nothing. But the fact that I would walk with them hand in hand and sit beside them in medical, they knew exactly that they weren't going through this alone. Because in this life, you cannot suffer alone. You need help. You
Mm.
need helpers. So I went side by side with them, and the medical people knew what it was. I didn't have to say that they were suicidal, had mental issues. They said, you know what? I need help, but I need you to walk with me. And we had to walk with people with them with these sicknesses and the ailments because they feel like they're alone because they've suffered so long. And this is what I did in the Navy. I've seen
Mm.
crises. I've seen people jump off the ship. I've seen people take their lives. And that stuff affected me. I've seen enough crises that affected me, and I never got help for that. You know, nightmares, PTSD. Yep, that is me, Dr. Resilience, because I'm walking those shoes. And as I walk those shoes, I know I'm a subject matter expert
Mm.
because I'm walking those shoes. I live it, and I know what I'm talking about because I've lived it for 35 years in the Navy and shared it
Mm.
with over thousands of lost track of people, men, women, spouses, the co-workers, civilian workers,
Mhm.
all those people that would come to me because I was the last resort for hope before they did something very destructive. So resilience
Mhm.
plays a key part in having the right mindset to say, you know what, I need to ask for help.
Wow. I love the fact that you are able to share your story and talk about the trauma that you have experienced, and but you took it and you have allowed it to produce resilience in you and able to go out and to help coach and teach and train. And I seen you on the stages, being so vulnerable,
Yes.
but at the same time empowering, not just motivating people, but empowering them to do what they need to do to get to their healthy place. So, in thinking about key characteristics of traits that shows resilience or produce resilience. I know one of the traits would be, getting a therapist. You just said that you work with a lot of men. Let's talk to the men a little bit. We have male listeners. You work with a lot of men, and you know that men of color and all men, but especially men of
Yes.
color. I was
Yes.
thinking about Father's Day. Just
Mm.
yesterday, a lot of times, you said it earlier, they're not given the opportunity to be, to say they're disappointed, to say I'm hurting, to say I'm tired. The fight is a fight and it's challenging for me. What are some other characteristics of resilient people, that things that they do that can help them become even more resilient? I know you mentioned therapy. What are some things, other things that maybe even you have done over the years?
Well, the number one thing is the attitude of gratitude. When you say, wow, what does attitude?
Mhm.
Attitude has everything to do with it because what I found out that I learned to be grateful for the little things. And you mentioned Father's Day. So I was with my father yesterday. I remember for many, many, many years. And by the way, I'll deviate just a little bit. My father was against me joining the Navy. I went behind his back to join the Navy. I have to put that in. But you know what? Once I did that, he became my biggest cheerleader. And I say that because on yesterday, I really honored him. I spoke to him as a father. He's going to be 82 this year, and he's a person of faith, but he wasn't always a person of faith. I remember for
Mhm.
years, I wouldn't cry with my father. I'd never see my father show emotions. He never cried growing up. It's like, this man is built of steel. Because in that generation, what I found out is that he could only give me the best that he had to offer me. And so not before I retired, not too long ago, I found myself that I could cry and gave him a big hug because he was an emotional person. And to this day, when I see him, he gives me the biggest hugs because he said I've become so transparent. He said, son, I am so proud of you because I've learned so much from you. And this is a Pentecostal pastor, you know, hardcore brimstone and fireman. I watch all my life and see him to break down because he's realizing that as he's aging now, he's seeing how the growth has taken place in me, how I'm vulnerable, and I respect him because you know what? As the scripture says, I was telling yesterday, a man leave an inheritance for his children. And a pastor pulled me aside when I was in Dallas and told me it's not about the finances. What he leaves you inheritance as his legacy. My father taught us how to pray. He taught us how to have a faith in something bigger than us, how to believe in God. Because when those storms shift in your life and you're going back and forth, he taught us how to survive. And those survival techniques is what helped me as a man, not all the wealth, because you can have all the wealth in the world and still be lost because you know what? You have nothing that's planted and rooted. Like those elders that raised me in DC and the Carolinas, those mothers in the church, those praying mothers, my great grandmother, my grandmother, how I watched them pray. And I watched those values are in me today. And I think about the old saints, we say. And my father, as I watch him age, I say, you know what? He's still a wise man and he's learned so much. And I learned from him because I found out they said millennials older. No, I said two-way street. I learned from them and they learn from me because why? We have some wisdom because technology, Dr.Tammie, that is not me, but I think of my niece and nephew, they come my age. So I said I can learn a little bit from both of them. So even though I've been here a little longer than my niece and nephew, they teach me, I teach them. So I keep an open mind because Father's Day was special because I don't have any children, but my father said, you have mentored so many young men. You know, by the way, I was Big Brother of the Year, my second tour of the Navy, not because of the award, because I took 4 years to mentor a young man. His name was Denzel, not Washington. I found out he came from a broken home. His mother was just out there. His brothers was selling drugs and doing everything. And so when his mother saw me at the door, she expected to see a white guy. She read his portfolio. It's like, oh, this guy got education and he's a naval officer. She opened the door. She was shocked. But for the next 4 years, I worked with Denzel. I took him out of his element, his environment, and took him to my neighborhood and my home. He saw a whole new world. It's called exposure. And so I worked with him and found out he'd been getting in fights. And I found the reason why he got in fights, Dr.Tammie, he could not read. So I spent countless hours with him. I brought him suits and made him feel good. You can see his self-esteem build up, took him to church, he got baptized, and I could see the transformation. Well, long story short, he ended up graduating from high school, worked with him. I had all mothers say, can you mentor my son? I said, let me do this young man for now, work with him. Those 4 years, and we still keep in contact today. He's graduated and can read because I took time to mentor him, take him out of that element, just give him exposure. Exposure does a lot sometimes for people to see something different, you know, wear a suit and tie and see that, you know what, life is a different, you have options. So I provided him options, just like my father, you know, I love my parents, but they taught me faith. They taught me to believe in God. They taught me the fundamentals of life and the ethics and have integrity and believe in myself because way before I went to the Navy, I was going back and forth to DC, traveling and youth ministry because I was in church involved. I was the youngest person in my choir, but all those accolades and awards in the Navy and the community services, I did it because it was from my heart and I wanted to transform lives and mostly men's lives with my own nephews. To the day, my brother, when I went to college, it wasn't for me. I was stationed in DC, another story. And my brother said he's not going to college because my father got him a job at Firestone. I drove from DC. I went to North Carolina and said, brother, let's get in the car. We drove to Fayetteville State University. I walked him on that campus and said, look, you're going to finish school. I love our father, respect him, but I said, you have no children. You're not married. You're going to get your degree. Do you know he finished? He didn't have any money. I had a refund check. I said, you take this. The only way you're going to quit if security put you off campus, but until then, you will finish school. You know he finished, Dr.Tammie? So I was a big brother to my little brother, to my nephews, and to other young men and say, you know what? You can do the same thing. And so by me inspiring them, it helps me to say, wow, somebody's listening to you. Somebody's watching your story. So this presents mental health in men, especially another thing I'll say on this point about men. Men, they have to trust you. It's a trust factor. No, like, and trust. If you don't trust, you're not going to open up. I find men just gravitating to me and say, you know what? Can we talk? Even before I started coaching them, I go to the coffee house and they just started sharing and pouring. I said, what is this? So my thing is, somebody said I'm a connector. My superpower, I never thought about that, because men seem to gravitate and want to share their hurt and their problems with me. So I said, you know what, maybe there's something to this. And so that's why I've taken it and say, you know what, I'm there for them to take them to another level, to bounce back. I said, don't just live life, but live the resilient life. And that's my motto with men that I've
The
helped in my own family.
resilient life, the resilient life. You're saying so much, and I think when I think about resilient, and I think about
Mm,
life, and I think about trauma, and I think about the journeys that we walk through, and you was just sharing how we're able to instill resilience in younger generation, in
yes,
our children, by modeling, by being a big
yes.
brother. I was a big sister for many years in a program in Nash and Edgecombe County, which is
Mm,
neighboring cities to Wilson County.
yes.
And even recall working at Wilson Department of Social Services,
Mm,
in Child Protective Services
wow.
and so forth. And it's just like you always have opportunities around you to be a model,
Yes.
to be able to teach something. But the question is, are we going to be vulnerable enough when the time presents itself to tell our story? One meeting we were at together, you stood on the stage and you talked about something very personal and near and dear to your heart. And I'm wondering, are you comfortable sharing that with us on
Oh,
tonight?
absolutely.
Yeah, you
Yes.
talked about going through a divorce and how
Oh my God.
challenging that was for you.
Yes. You know, Dr. Tim, I think about it so much because here I am. I was a first tour chaplain. I was stationed in Virginia. And I remember, this is my high school sweetheart from the 10th grade. And you know what? Both of our pastors' fathers were pastors. We were PKs and we were good friends. And I remember my first tour in Virginia on a ship. And I
Mhm.
remember the night before I deployed, we sat and had a long talk. And I said, you know what? I know we had some issues and problems. We're going to get through this. We
Mhm.
hugged and embraced. I went on that 6-month cruise. The Lord had blessed. We had a gospel service. I had a choir to ship it recorded with Kirk Franklin. We were singing and having a great time. But during the cruise, I never heard her write a letter or anything. I requested items from the home. Something in the back of my mind said something's not right. But I stayed focused. I stayed focused on the mission because y'all were in the chaplain and we had Christ on board that ship. Oh my God. I can talk about that later on, but that crisis to this day, I still think about it.
Mhm.
But coming back off that 6-month cruise, Dr. Tammie, I'm sitting here all excited, 6-month deployment, waiting on the ship for her to pick me up. I was about the last one to leave the ship. It's like, wow, this is interesting. I got picked up. We went out to dinner. I'm excited. I bought a big old nice big ring to, repropose and be all excited about it. And we had dinner and we went home and sat down. And she looked at me and said, you got 2 weeks to get out of this house. My face dropped. Now you're talking about a 6-month deployment. You come home to this news and say, get out 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to get out this house. And by the way, she's an attorney. And I said, oh my God, I didn't know what to think. My heart was beating so fast. I thought it was something that was going to jump out of my chest. I didn't know what was going on. My mind just started wandering. And all I did was get in my car. And I got in my car, Dr. Tammie, and in Virginia Beach, we're surrounded by water. And I was praying to God that my car would drive me to the nearest lake or the water. Because I said, hold it, how could this happen to me? I had the most phenomenal time on this cruise as a chaplain. God bless souls, got saved and baptized. And here I am coming to this news. I was devastated. I drove around all that evening. I didn't get into the river of water. I ended up going
Mhm.
to a hotel and I cried so hard, I think I had crust in my eyes. I cried so hard, I couldn't even get any more tears. And I said, how am I going to face the crowd? How am I going to go to work the next day? I'm a Navy chaplain. I can't be doing this. But what kept me going, Dr. Tammie, and those listening, every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning before I went to work, I was at the gym. And this
Mhm.
lasted for over the whole phase of the divorce. I mean, I went through all the anger phases. Like, how could this happen to me? I was ready to resign. I said, I can't preach and be a chaplain and I'm divorced and going through divorce. This was handed to me. How could this happen to me? And I questioned God. But 4 o'clock in the morning, I found the strength to make it to that gym, put on a straight face, go do my job, do my counseling, and go home and cry. It was devastating. And about spending $15,000 of money I saved up for the attorney fees, I stopped. And then I said, you know what? With all the phases I went through, the anger phases, the one thing that was my rock, I had pastors call and preach to me. I said, click, hang the phone up. I want to hear your scriptures. No, don't preach to me. You don't know what I'm going through. The saving grace was my mother and father. On the weekend, I would drive to North Carolina and I would cry, and my parents would pray over me while I cried. And I went through those torments. And you know what? They never judged me. They let me cry and go back to Virginia on Monday morning to go to work. But they were my saving grace. Everybody else was trying to preach to me. Nobody offered prayer. Just preach to me. And it's like, now is not the time for that. They didn't have the right mindset. I was struggling and I knew that I needed help. But I had mother and father. Like the song says, somebody prayed for me to have me on their mind. They prayed for me. And I thank God for having a praying mother and a praying father. And I got through that. And, right in the middle of all that, we got a mediator, went through that. And I remember saying these words. I said, I am so sorry what happened. I don't know what's going on. And she cried in my arms like a baby. I said, I forgive you. I forgive myself. Whatever happened, she's never cried before. And that was releasing my healing, because I said, I can't move forward and have this on me. Because if I didn't forgive, God wouldn't bless me. So I said, God, help me to get through this. When she cried and broke down, I had already said, you know what? I'm sorry. And we dissolved that with the mediator. But you know what? Ever since then, everything that I lost, God gave it back to me double and triple. He did. He gave it back to me double. For everything that I lost, I started all over again. Take the house. I said, God, I just want peace of mind. I wanted the peace of mind. I don't care about the material stuff. And God has given me more than I had before. I done bought more homes than I've had before. My mother ever seen. And she kept in contact and trying to find out what's going on. She was shocked because you know what? He said he prepared a table for you in the presence of your enemy. She saw how I just propelled and became this Superman, because I would not let that stop me. That's where resilience came from, the divorce. Because my father said, I know men that had become drunks, alcoholics,
come on.
but he said, I watched you go there with your head up high. Yes, you were hurting. Yes, you were crying. But guess what? Like this sign behind me, I persevered through that storm. I got through that storm. And guess what? I went to another level of resilience through a divorce with the help of God, with the help of my strong faith. And that's another resilience story that I say, I got through that because that was a storm. Because we all have storms. How do you get to those storms? What kind of gear you going to have in your storm? But guess what? I've been on ships where sometimes the ship, I thought was going to capsize. But you know what? We rocked and we rolled. We went backwards and forwards because, see, I was a master helms in the Navy. So when every time bad weather came, I was at the bridge driving the helm. And I maneuvered the ship through crisis. So God give us tools and resources, counselors, coaches like Dr. Tammie that can coach us through those storms of life, to help us, to give us the roadmap to get to that right mindset, to get to those millions. Because guess what? Resilience will take you to the next level. Live your best life. Oh, I'm excited.
That's it. Hey, I can tell you're excited, and that's what people are looking for. People are looking for answers. People realize that it's some things outside of themselves that they cannot do, and they need somebody like Dr. Resilient, a man of faith that can say, hey, I went through this. I walked through the fire, through the flood, through the storms, and I don't look like what I've been through. And even in your talking and sharing, my mind was going back to how, you ended up forgiving her because you knew that it was going to help you. And when I think about resilience, I think about the fact sometimes people cannot give you what they don't have to give you. And we're walking around and we're angry and we're disappointed and we're sad and we're holding people hostage. And they don't even half of the time realize what they truly did, the impact, the pain, the hurt, the disappointment. But I'm so excited to hear your story, even as I think about my own stories, and we're so similar. Growing up in Eastern North Carolina, I grew up on a farm, lived in the projects and all of that. And when I see you on these different platforms, you are killing it in the game. You're making things happen. You're writing books. You're mentoring. You're coaching. You're doing so many things. Did you ever think at certain intervals in your life when you were going through the hardest seasons ever, did you think that you will come out on the other side the way that you have?
You know what? Excellent question, Dr. Tammie. Really, I didn't. And that's why I said mindset is everything, because my mother said it was some always different about me. And I like Les Brown because I was hungry, Dr. Tammie. Even I think from a child in high school, I wanted more. I was never content and satisfied with just mediocrity. I would see big things and dreams on TV. It's like, you know what? My mother reminded me, there was always time when I would go to the big neighborhoods in Wilson and big homes. Everywhere I've gone, it's like, you know what? I'm gonna live right there someday. I want a house just like that. That's the car I want to have. But it was on my mindset. I saw this thing before it happened. The things that I want in life. I've been blessed to live in countries that people dream about. Visit country, I mean, to live in and go shopping. And it's like, wow, because it was here first. The seed was planted. I read books about it. You know, I said, I'm going to get there one day. I spoke it. I spoke it to an existence. So I believe in asking God for anything you want, but I saw it first. I had a vision. I had a vision. And I had dreams, and my mother always encouraged me to write. She always encouraged me to journal things. I have sticky surrounding me now of thoughts. It's like, what is this all about, God? And as I'm putting it together now, I found out that if your dream is something you can't gravitate to, it needs to be so big. Like, I don't have the money for it, but I believe it's going to be there. Like Walt Disney, he saw a field, they laughed at him, but look what Walt Disney has today.
Come
Things that
on.
you can see that, you know what, it just blows people's mind. That's what I want to do. I want to blow people's mind and say, if God can do this for that little country boy from that dirt road of North Carolina, and you know what, Dr. Tammie, you brought something back to my mind. When we lived in the country, I lived in the projects of DC. When my parents moved to North Carolina, you know what? They moved to the country. We had no running water. We had no bathroom. I don't know if anybody order can identify. We had a pot. I said, Lord, this is embarrassing. My father had the nerve to have church in the house with no bathroom, but you know why they had church? It's like, I was ashamed. But he did not let his faith there. I left a big house, went to the country. And so when God gave me a house with 4 bathrooms, it's like, don't talk about me. I had an outhouse. I had a pot. So God bless me. I know where I've come from. Remember, I had no degrees. The system said you weren't smart enough. So 5 earned degrees because God anointed this mind. ADHD, when the system said no, God said yes. Why? Because I'm going to use it for a testimony. Say, if I could take it from the dirt road and take it to the White House, to the governor's mansions, and I've been in governor's mansion with admirals and generals. I've been surrounded with people with clout. And it's like, I'm just from the dirt road of North Carolina. But if he used that for a testimony, say, you know what, he can do that. I thank God every day for testimony, because it's nothing to brag about. God opened doors that sometimes like, am I supposed to be here? Yes, you're supposed to be here. This is a season of time to show that I'm using you as a vessel to show others that look like me, little boys, little girls. Guess what? The same can happen to you with the right mindset to get those millions. Say, yes, I see it. But what are you going to do with it? Are you going to inspire others? Are you going to help others? Are you going to give tools to them? Of the 7 books I've written, I thank God. I never thought I'd be an author. It's like, are you serious? A best-selling author? 7 books later? Like I said, this is a guy with ADHD from a dirt road, from a mother that almost aborted him, but God had purpose. So if you listen to me, if you have purpose, guess what? You will persevere like stormy seas, but you need that coach. You need that mentor. And there are people like me, Dr. Tammie, and others out there that can help guide you to navigate those waters, because those waters get rough out there. I remember being on my ship with my all my gear on when the water's over my head sometimes, and it's like, how are we going to get through this? We had to tie stuff in the rack because we broke equipment on the ship going through. I'm talking about some water, see the ship to the campsite, and we survived those storms. So imagine a little storm. I survived divorce. You will survive your storm, ladies and gentlemen. I've survived those storms. I'm surviving storms. The mental health, yes. I say therapy and medication works. It's working for me, because without that, I'd be all over the place. But God says, you know what? It's okay. It's okay to say, you know what? It's okay to say, I need help. I need help. I got through the divorce. I got through the loss. I got through the system when they said you weren't smart enough to get SAT scores to get on nobody's campus. But God said, you know what? I'm going to use what my mother almost destroyed as a testimony to give birth to resilience. Because remember, don't just live life live a resilient life, Dr. Tammie. That's I feel that passion
Yes.
there. I'm here for a
Yes.
purpose. My
Yes.
DNA is different from everyone else because
Mm-hmm.
only I can tell my story. It's not for me. My story is
Mm-hmm.
for someone else to change their life, to see transformation happen.
I love this. I love this. I think, a lot of times when I'm coaching
Mm,
people as it relates to getting to their new next, sometimes
mm,
people get stuck in where they've been and
yes.
they base that on how far they can go. And I love something that you said, we belong at these tables.
Yes.
A lot of times the confidence because of the hardships. I don't know anybody, even when I read the Bible and history. I love reading, people life stories. You realize people have been through some things. I
Yes.
don't know anybody who have massive influence, massive wealth, and dominance in the earth who have not walked through processes and life journeys and lived to tell the story. Who can say that they had not been through anything? So the fact that you're able to talk about where you've been, what you're currently doing, what you're getting ready to do, and we're getting ready to talk about that a little bit next.
Yes.
But before we do that, I want to talk about, have you seen any culture or society factors that can hinder someone ability from being resilient? And what I'm
Ooh.
saying in a nutshell,
Mm,
sometimes people say I would be resilient, but I would be, you've been in the Navy. I mean, you've
mm.
done a lot of traveling in other countries. So you could be one of those people to say, I couldn't be resilient because of this person, these people, or whatever the circumstance may be. Talk about that a little bit. Any culture of societal factors that have kept you or hindered you from walking in true resilience?
Ooh, that is a great question. You know what? So many things are going through my mind right now. And one thing that comes to my mind is your environment. Some people say, oh, I'm stuck in my environment. But you know what? I say they're excuses. As I told you when I was in the
Mm,
Marine Corps and others, I say, remember, there are four friends that you need to kick. Let me say it again, kick to the curb. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, and but are not your friend because it allows you to second guess yourself. Yes, I say those are not your friends because you know what?
mm,
This is a battlefield, the
yeah.
literal battlefield, because this thing will say things, have you thinking things, oh my God, I can't do this, I can't see that. And what you do, you limit yourselves. You limit yourself in this battlefield, and it's a war. You got to
Yeah.
fight this thing. I say, put your gloves on. Okay, you know what? I'm
Mm,
not going to stop now. I remember we had this toy as a child, this clown. You punch it and it comes back up. I said, guess what? I love that toy. I can't, this
yes.
thing even stay down. And that's what the enemy wants you to stay
Mm,
down. But every time you punch them back up and
mm,
get back up. The song
mm,
says, fall down, get back up. Like that little clown toy my parents had. It was a big
mm,
old balloon dog, and we hit it, and it kept going back up. So life is like that. Bounce back up, bounce back up. That's why I have a book here that says, you know what, the bounce back effect. Let me find that book right here. It's called The Bounce Back Effect, How to Soar in the Midst of Setback. Because guess what? Setbacks are going to come. They're going to knock at your door.
mm,
So learn how to keep those boxing gloves on. Why? Because the enemy does not want you to succeed. He sees
mm.
greatness in you. He knows your DNA is destined for something else greater than you. I'm talking about it because he's trying to battle this mind for, oh, you ain't good enough, you ain't smart enough, you too black, you wear glasses, you ugly. But guess what?
Mm,
Like the girl said in the color prayer, I may be ugly, but I'm free. And sometimes you got to tell yourself the same thing. I am not going to live in mediocrity.
mm,
I might be in this environment today, but I'm going to break loose from this prison. How many people have I seen and come across that were in little prisons that have got to become multimillionaires,
mm,
own businesses without degrees?
mhm,
And
mhm,
doing big things. Why? Because they saw themselves out there. This might be a small limitation, but don't let the limitation stop you. Your
mm,
environment, guess what? I was in an environment I didn't want to be in. I'm from Wilson, North Carolina. I didn't want to work in factories. I am not minimizing factory work, but I want it bigger and better. But
mhm,
sometimes the people you hang around with are chickens. You got to hang with the egos. Guess why? Why do
mm,
you think they're so hyped there? The ego mentality. And I believe an ego mentality is what's going to take you to the next level. Imagine having faith and ego mentality. My good, you can take the world over. It's like, what are you talking about? Rocky. You got Rocky inside of you. It's called resilience. Bounce back, soar in the midst of setback. Why? Because
mm.
those storms are going to come. How
Yes.
many hurricanes have you lived through? People lose stuff all the time. But guess what? God will give that stuff back to you. And we see that everyday devastation is happening. Resilient people will get that back. They will build again and say, I'm not going to stop. And every time on the news, they say, what? These people are resilient. And we should be the same way. Get back up again. Bounce back. Because guess what? You can soar in the midst of setback. Why? And if you can't do it by yourself, get your coach, get your mentor, your pastor, whomever you trust, because everybody's not your friend. Some people are haters out there that don't want to see you grow. And guess what? I read something the other day, someone said, you got to block them. I have blocked some numbers already this year in the last 30 days. You know what? Because they're negative. I don't have time for negative drama. You know, I'm talking about that and I want to hear. I'm trying to go to another level. I'm trying to get somewhere in life. And you're always talking about drama issues. You know what? I'm sorry, but I love you, but I got to go on. You know what? Thank you very much for your time, but I got a mission. I got a purpose and destiny on this side of heaven. And some folks you got to cut loose because they're not supposed to be in your circle. Who are your 5 friends right now? You might have less than that. I have less than that. People that I trust. Know, like, and trust is big. Why? Because everybody's not liking your progress. Everybody's not going to like your success. You got to get some tough skin. I'm learning as we speak now because everybody's not about your happiness. So make yourself happy like I do. I take trips and enjoy my life, and I love it every day. People say, how can you do that? Because I love me first. You can't love yourself first. Who else is going to do that for you? So remember the people you hang around, your environment, and your battlefield here. You got to fight this. Like when I'm in a actual war zone on the ship and Navy, you got to fight. You got to put on the whole gear. You got to put on your mop. Get ready for war. Why? Because if not, you're going to start crying. You're going to go through the tear gas. Guess what? But you're going to come through the tear gas as I did in firefighting school. It's a test. It's only a test.
It's only a test.
At the finish line.
Yes. A lot of people stop at the finish line because they think that they're not going to pass the test. And I enjoyed you talking about the importance of taking care of you, you know, whether it's taking a vacation, you know. Let's talk a little bit about self-care. I know for me, you know, I take time for me, whether it's solitude, whether it's travel, you know, whether it's the spa, you know, it could be a good book on a cruise, whatever we need to do. And it, you know, people budgets are different. You know, Maui might be my space, but Punta Cana might be the next person's space. So we got to be able to know how to take care of ourselves. What do you say about that? Is that
I love that word because, you know, I love Dr. Tam. You're right on my radar here because self-care is another thing that I failed to mention. I write about it too because I was one that didn't always do that. I remember pushing myself so hard when I was getting my degrees. I had migraines. I had them so bad I had to get shots for the pain because I pushed myself. Remember, I did back-to-back degrees and doctor degrees, and my self-care was out the window. My blood pressure was so high. I wasn't doing anything. But, you know, recently since I retired, my blood pressure has decreased, which meant that the stress, because the military is a stress machine, and that stress was put on me. And if I didn't stop, they thought I had a heart attack. I was blacking out, fainting out, pushing myself, trying to chase the next pay grade. I wanted them eagles. I retired as a commander, but I wanted that eagle, that full bird 06 captain rank. And I pushed myself to the point where my health was suffering. So I said, you know what? It's not worth it. It's time to go home and enjoy some good life. So now
it's good.
You can do staycation. You can get in your backyard and make your backyard
an oasis.
You ain't got to go to Maui. I've done that. I put on some nice classical music. I go to the health spa. I get pedicures. I get manicures. And you know what? Then I just love to relax. Sometimes I take a train trip and just go to one end to the other end. My birthday one year in DC, I took a train to Boston, went to a nice restaurant, went to see a play, and came back. They said, how do you do that? I said, self-care. Every Christmas, I go to my favorite spot in DC at National Harbor and stay there. And I go to my favorite restaurant and I love it. And people say, how do you do that? Because I'm taking care of me first.
That is beautiful.
And my sister and brother learned it from me. I said, Mama, and my mother, she started to pay and said, Mom, let's just go for a ride. I put her in my car and let's just go for a ride and just enjoy my quality time with my parents. But for me, self-care is important because I want to do retreats for self-care for leaders, especially men, get them out because how many pastors have I talked to? They said they're so busy. I had a coaching client and I would say this. So he said he never has time. So I said, okay, his boss, he said, well, my boss always running, doing this. And he takes time and he has access to everybody's schedule. So I said, break out your schedule. I said, where are you on your schedule? He was nowhere on his schedule. I said, you need to make yourself a Fortune 500 company.
Come
He said, I never
on.
thought about it like that. If you're a Fortune 500 company, you do what your boss is doing. You see on his schedule, he runs every day, and all of his company sees that, but you don't see it in yourself.
That's
So I
good.
said, if you don't make yourself a Fortune 500 company, you're not going to survive much longer. You don't have time to PT. I said, start the first day of your day. What's the best time of your day for you? He said, in the morning. Well, carve 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Get up and make that your time. Self-care. We make so many excuses, so I didn't accept no excuse for him. But he said that, wow, it makes sense now. The CEO was asked you to emulate what he's doing, but you're trying to please him so well, you forget about your emotional well-being.
That's big. That is huge.
Emotional well-being is powerful. And he said, oh my God. I said, make yourself a Fortune 500 company. Think like he does and do
That's
more
awesome.
self-care.
See, I told you that this hour was going to go by so fast. Didn't I tell you that? And I know people are enjoying this. Our chat went down, but people are enjoying this. I've shared on our page for people to be able to tune in, and I tagged you in on the new link because for some reason we was having some technical difficulties, but nevertheless, people are enjoying what it is that you have shared, Mr. Resilient. But in our last 6 minutes, I want you to talk about your upcoming events that you have going on. I want you to give the website for people to be able to register. I am planning to be there. I want you to talk about your books. You know, you gave me a link how to get a free download, and I can't put it in the chat. So I want you to, in these next 6 minutes, 7 minutes, I want you to share that information because somebody want to connect with you.
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, I can say they connect with email, with Gmail. They go to Dr. Resilience 701 at gmail.com. Again, Dr. Resilience 701 at gmail.com. And for a free book, the last one I just read called The Resilient Leader, which is the summit, all you got to do is go to www.drcarlmbarnes.com. Again, www.drcarlbarnes.com. You get the free Resilient Leader book, the 7 book, the bestseller, and also you just pay for shipping and handling. There's also an audio and a workbook. A lot of my leaders and pastors, they want that because it's a whole curriculum for you to teach your classes on. So I made it very easy for you. And also with that, I'm having my upcoming summit called the Resilient Leader Summit. Based on that book, the Resilient Leader Summit is becoming a movement. And so that summit is going to be September the 28th in good old Wilson, North Carolina at the 7C Center. Dr. Tammie is going to be there to support me. And you can go to www.rebound-renaissance/upcoming-events. I'll say it again slowly. www.rebound-renaissance.com/upcoming-events. And again, if you need more information on that, you can just go to Dr. Resilience 701 at gmail.com and ask for the link again. I will be glad to connect with you. And speaking of books, so that was book number 7. Book number 6 was my memoir I wrote. It's called Born Resilient. It's called Finding Courage in the Face of Adversity. All my books are resilience, and it's on Amazon. It is on Amazon. It's on audiobook as well, but it's called Born Resilience. Also, I did my first collaboration of books. The African American Navy Chaplains Committee presents From Sea to Sea Stories. These are stories from chaplains of African American descent. About 40 of us. We have a chapter. We wrote our stories. I've been presenting it to pastors and leaders and telling our stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly, how we overcame and did ministry in the sea service as Navy chaplains. These are all chaplains of African American descent. They have retired. Some are active, and we just shared a chapter and told our stories. Most of them resilient stories like mine of how it took to get in the Navy as chaplains. And the banner behind me says resilient sailing 10 Lessons to Persevere Life Stormy Seas is available on Walmart, Amazon. So just put in, just Google my name in, it'll pop up there. And this has been a bestseller right here. I just got a box today. So if you want to get a copy of this autograph, you can just email me or at Gmail, Dr. Resilient 701 at gmail.com. And it's called 21 Day Devotional Nuggets for Resilient Living. And people have made it a Bible study. My men's group in Memphis, we went through for 21 days and had brunch at the end of this. We all text each other. Very short, but I like to write in my books. The first book I wrote, I collaborated with a friend of mine called 5 Strategies to Resilient Living, how to turn your pain into purpose.
Wow.
So any of those books that interest you, remember, just email me at drresilient701 at gmail.com, and I'll be glad to connect with those books. But, you know, I'm on a mission here to change and transform life and help people to live a more resilient life. I love working with men, but I work with anyone. This lady called said, would you work with me? I say, absolutely. Anyone that want to bounce back, I'll work with you, but I like to target men, but I'm open to work with anyone that want to persevere life stormy seas. So again, that event, the Resilient Leader Summit, my first live event, is going to be in Wilson, North Carolina, the 28th of September. I would love to have your support. You can email me for more details or follow me on Facebook. Just put in Carl Barnes, Dr. Carl. Follow me on Instagram at Dr. Carl Barnes. At Dr. Carl Barnes on Instagram. You see my things I'm doing there. Connect with me there. So there are several ways to connect with me, and I'm grateful for this platform, for Dr. Tammie allowing me to speak to you and pour into your heart and share what God has done for me and share my perseverance and my storms in my life to make me the subject matter expert of resilience, because I live this every day of my life. I talk what I walk because I am resilient because of those things that have taught me to persevere in all the storms that I still go through.
Woo, woo, woo! I clap it up for you, sir. You know, tonight was about a resilient mindset. Mindset to millions, a resilient mindset. And I know that you all out there have heard nuggets about how to keep moving forward in spite of storms. Dr. Carr shared how he's been through all kinds of processes, life journeys from divorce, mental health challenges along the way, chaplaincy, working with suicidal people, Big Brother. I mean, he said so many wonderful things growing up on a dirt road. Listen, we have no excuse. I have no excuse. I am so honored and proud that I have a platform where I can say, mindset to millions. I live to tell the story. He lived to tell the story. I live to tell the story. You live to tell the story. Dr. Barnes, thank you again. Give us your website one more time. I want them to make sure that they write down your website.
Yes, www.drcarlbarnes.com. Again, www.drcarlbarnes.com.
Woo! And I tell you what, as we're wrapping up, some people couldn't get in the chat simply because we was having some technical difficulties, but my cell phone is blowing up. Someone says, woo, this brother is passionate. So your energy has came across in such a great way. And sir, I'm honored to know you. You are just a dynamite. You're on fire for God, but for God's people. And I've seen you to allow your heart to be broken with the things that break Jesus' heart. And that's men, that's people across the board. So thank you again. And I'm honored that you were on. And I want to say to my audience, thank you. And all the people that are texting me, oh my goodness, thank you for listening. Thank you for being excited. Thank you for investing in yourself. And as always, every Monday night, you can come back to this platform. And also on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we have some wonderful radio personalities. Dr. Sherman, Coach Rich. We have some new personalities. Dr. Marcel Whitaker. It's a lot of people on this platform. Jay Bay, I could go on and on.
Oh, wow.
But I want you to stay connected to Mega Source Entertainment. We are making big moves. We are an African American station, and we are productive, and we're making things happen, and we're known across the country. And I want you to be a partaker. So come back next Monday night with Dr. Tammie Harris, Mindset to Millions. God bless. Make it a great night. Bye now.